last is Caleb Love, who, commits to Michigan. Michigan has 3 transfer commitments. None of them have been announced by the school yet. And Chris, you have talked about on here multiple times that, these transfers, and we saw it with Terrence Shannon last year as well, where they have work to do sometimes to get those credits, to transfer, to finish up credits, to then graduate so they can come into Michigan as a graduate. So that was kind of on the table. That situation has kind of been floating around Caleb Love, it seems like, over the last month since he committed. And then you also look at, then there's some Twitter rumors over the last couple of days. Trilly Donovan, who is one of those accounts on Twitter that I think, people following the transfer portal have come to know over the last few weeks, because it does have some intel, but it also, I don't know who's running it, but it also has a bunch of random rumors as well. It's kind of like a message board, but on Twitter. And, hey, he says, will Caleb Love play for Michigan at all next year? Stay tuned. Well, Caleb Love last night comes out and says, yes, I will play for Michigan next year. Stay tuned. Go blue with, maize and blue hearts there. Your guys' thoughts on where this situation stands?
I think it's a positive that he is indicating that he's willing to put in the work. There's a lot of work to do for a lot of these kids, classes that you have to take, hoops that you have to jump through. Yeah. And so I think that's a positive for those, who really want Caleb Love here. Is he the answer? This is a two-parter for me. Is he the answer? Is he what you're looking for? When you had issues last year with Jet Howard, and let's be clear, there were issues with Jet Howard last year. People can spin it any way they want to, but there were some chemistry issues, and there were things that really it was tough to watch on the floor. You can't have that, when you're talking about having a culture of, for competitors only, then you better have guys out there that are busting their asses on defense, that are taking shots within the framework of the offense and playing for their teammates. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, assuming Caleb Love does end up here. So again, we've seen it in the past where guys have announced it, and there are people in North Carolina that say, you know what, it's going to be, I'd be surprised if he ends up at Michigan. That's a rumor that he doesn't want, leave it elsewhere, please. Those are people talking. We've heard the same thing on our end. But I think a lot of it, what he's saying now is that, hey, he's committed to this program and he's committed to making it work. So I think that's a positive for the roster. They need bodies, guys. They need guys that can score. Let's be honest. They can't be that choosy at this point. So to me, it's good to hear him say it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that when rumors like that come out, the silence can only be deafening on it. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he did come out and say, yes, I plan to play there. To me, that reads emphatically, yes, I will play there. Stay tuned, which is kind of the hedge of, okay, I guess stay tuned for what happens next. But,
I think Michigan stay tuned because stay tuned was in Trilly Donovan's tweet. So I think he was.
Yeah. He's firing back. He's firing back at that. I understand. Yep. Michigan needs some kind of star power. I mean, that's the downside of the Hunter Dickinson transfer, is that to even get yourself back to treading water, you need probably to land a transfer that was at least via transfer portal rankings, similar or on the same caliber as Dickinson was. And Caleb Love is the closest thing to that. And probably right now their best transfer addition by far. Now, again, you got to get everyone signed. Everyone needs to be signed, sealed, and delivered. And I just think you get talent in here and figure it out later. I think that the notion of there being, chemistry issues after some of the Jet Howard stuff, I think it goes a little bit deeper than just the player. I do think let's call it what it is. I think there were some family dynamics at play there. It's a fresh start for Caleb Love if he does wind up at Michigan. Again, he's going to take. We've said it from the beginning with him. I mean, he's going to score you, just score a way to win. Or he's going to score enough to win you a basketball game. Just had a total brain fart there. Or he could shoot you out of a basketball game. I don't think that's really going to change. You'd like to see be a little bit more of a creator for others. I think that's going to be an emphasis. But, the fact that he's sitting here on May 5th saying, I'm going to play at Michigan next year, I have no choice but to take the guy at his word. Now I know he's not signed yet. Neither of the other transfers are signed yet, so I'm not putting a whole lot of stock into that. It's not like they're waiting on something to come in from him, but this roster is still in flux too. I mean, they still have 2 scholarship spots open. They're, there's some other things to address, but yeah, I think it can only be viewed as a positive, because at least, things have been kind of quiet since he committed. At least now there's a reaffirmation. Now nothing's official till you sign, but I think that Thursday night's tweet saga was if nothing else, just an incremental positive.
And Michigan needs to step up too with its NIL game, probably for him, right? I don't know what they promised him, if they promised him anything, in terms of NIL opportunities, but this doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to go somewhere for free, right? So there are things to work out, and I know that calls have been made, of hey, what can we expect, so on and so forth, and maybe the response wasn't what they wanted to hear initially, not just them, but others in the transfer portal. So Michigan better pick it up there too. I'm just saying, it ain't over till it's over, fellas. And but the fact that it appears that he's willing to put in the work. I remember Shea Patterson. We've talked about this. Michigan quarterback had to do 18 credits over the summer or something like that to get in. Some kids are going to just say, why should I go through that? Why can't I go somewhere else? Well, there are other draws for him to Michigan as well. Let's put it that way for Caleb Love. So, in addition to getting to play at Michigan and for Juwan Howard.
And you would hope that, and I would assume, because most coaches, I believe, do this, and I think Michigan's probably doing it right now, that Hubert Davis would keep him on scholarship or would do whatever has to happen for him to finish up those credits if he wanted to do so at North Carolina, unlike what Texas Tech did last year with Terrence Shannon. Then he ends up at Illinois. I'll say this about Caleb Love as well. I think there's a lot of shots up for grabs for Michigan. I think there's a lot of scoring opportunity up for grabs for Michigan. They need someone to kind of be that alpha offensively on the team. And if you look up and down the roster, there isn't one right now. And maybe they could add one if it's not Caleb Love or even along with Caleb Love. But I think it's a risk worth, taking. And I was talking to Brendan Marks, who covers North Carolina for The Athletic. And I asked him, will a change of scenery be good for Caleb Love? And he said he thinks that it will. He took me through everything that went wrong last year at North Carolina, and a lot of things went wrong. And it wasn't just Caleb Love, but the back and forth, the taking turns between him and RJ Davis in the backcourt. There was no clear identity there. But he said that a couple of things. One, Hubert Davis is a little more hands off, a little bit more of a calm coach. I know he went ballistic, in the game against Michigan this year, but he's that nice guy, cool presence. But he thinks that maybe Juwan Howard's fiery personality will connect a little bit more with Caleb Love, who's really, really similar, super competitive guy. And then he also just believes that having that change of scenery and something that Caleb Love wrote in his commitment, tweet was he wants to rewrite his story. And, I think he probably recognizes that, changes need to be made as well. So we'll see what happens with Caleb Love and all of that. But Michigan, been a little bit more quiet in the transfer portal. We've seen a little bit of movement. We will continue to track that over at thewolverine.com.